Morning, hi, Phil McPhail here, and today I'm in the city of Old Town. We're out in the rural section of Old Town, and what I'm going to show you today is a 48-acre lot here on Poplar Street. This property has both telephone and power out here at the street. Now the property here in Old Town fronts along Poplar Street for about 2,500 feet, and this is all paved, year-round accessible road frontage. We're just 1.5 miles, 2 miles over to Pushaw Lake. And this property is also surrounded by some conservation easement, which we'll talk about here in a minute. The land here in Old Town also has an interior road. This is gated. It bisects the property near the center, and you'll see that on the aerial photo map we'll put up here. All right, let's go for a little walk into the woods here. I want to show you some of the trees. This is a beautiful timber lot. It hasn't been harvested in many, many years. There's a nice mixture of hemlock, birch, poplar, pine, spruce, a little bit of everything in here. So let's go take a walk together. This is the interior road running through the land here in Old Town, and it's a good gravel base. I believe there was a gravel pit in here at one time. You will notice on the disclosure we had some materials that were left here many years ago. The seller had, and a potential buyer at that time had a couple of environmental site assessments done, and we'll share those with you. Probably the most significant thing that would have been stored here at the time was some asphalt reclaimed from some of the highway work locally. Most of that's all gone now, and like I said, look, ask for our disclosure and we'll send that right out to you. The beginning of this lot, there's a lot of mixed softwood in here. We've got some pine, we've got spruce fir, we've got a lot of hemlock. And that's running not too far from Poplar Street. The further we get in here, the more we kind of transition into some more hardwoods. You'll see some birches starting to come into view here. This is one clearing not far from Poplar Street. We're in here probably 300 or 400 feet, and this road continues on. Now you can see a lot more hardwood. This is almost totally hardwood between poplar, birch, red maples. A little bit of everything in here. Talking about the soils real quick, the NRCS soil mapping shows this to be a lot of sandy and rocky loams. It's great for growing trees. You could do some limited pasture work in here. You can see some oak trees growing here real well. These are pretty excessively drained soils for the most part, and until they're not. This is a mixed lot of soil, and the parts closer to the bog area on over to the west of here are definitely less well drained. But this center section of the land you'll see on the map, very good for building on. I shouldn't have any trouble getting a septic design put in place on this property. This is that small area of what they refer to as reclaim on the reports. It's used asphalt that was torn up, ground up, and then placed in here. Most of it has been removed. I think that's been done years ago. You won't see too much of it on this property now. Okay, we've made our way to the far northern end of the lot, and the boundary line here is very evident. Freshly blazed paint in red, and you can see that going down through the forest. Now, one of the cool things we haven't talked about, or I mentioned a little bit earlier, was that this land is actually surrounded by conservation land. And you'll see right here, this is University of Maine forest land behind us here. You can ride fat tire bikes in here. You can snowshoe, cross-country ski. They even allow some hunting back here. So this may be 48 acres, but the Perch Pond Forest, which is about 841 acres, completely surrounds this property on both sides of the road. Perch Pond Forest is now part of what's known as the Caribou Bog project, and this is a very large tract of land. I believe it's about 2,500 acres. It's interconnected between the city of Old Town, Orono, and into Bangor. So there's a lot you can do out here, from hiking, biking, sightseeing, hunting, fishing. Perch Pond is just off a little bit to the west of here. And there's Sewell Park, and Sewell Park actually is about a 28-acre city park. It has a boat landing there on Perch Pond, as well as picnic areas and a multi-use field that you can reserve if you have a group of friends coming for the day. Talking about what you can do while you're out here, this property currently is in tree management program, tree growth. It's a nice forest growing here and could be harvested now and certainly more so in the future. The land is actually zoned R3, which is rural residence and farming with the city of Old Town. There's a lot of things you can do there in that zone. Build a house, obviously, single family and or duplex. You can use it for forest management, agricultural uses. You can't have any private camping sites here. They don't want people camped out without any kind of facilities. So that's going to be a no-no. But there aren't that many restrictions. Most things you want to do, you can get a permit either from the code enforcement officer or the planning board. This property also has two other zones within its boundaries. R4, which is seasonal residence, and that's in the back of the property. And then a fair amount of it is also under resource protection, especially out near the bog area. So that's a 250-foot setback from the bog. And, you know, it just protects the natural environment here in Old Town. The 48 acres here on Poplar Street in Old Town is an incredible location. You feel like you're out in the middle of the woods, and you kind of are. However, Bangor International Airport is 15 miles from here. Downtown Old Town, just about 6. University of Maine in Orono, 6.5 miles from here, right to the Maine's largest university campus. So there's a lot of things you can do here other than enjoy the woods, although that certainly is a lot of fun. So you're traveling here from the south. Boston is 248 miles from this property, and that's less than a 4-hour drive. All but the last 6 miles of it's on I-95. I'm going to take you on a little tour of downtown Old Town and show you some of the sights. This is a city of about 7,500 people. Probably the most famous thing in Old Town would be Old Town Canoe. They sell their canoes all around the world, their kayaks as well. The city of Old Town has plenty to do, shopping, movie theaters, YMCA, a little bit of everything here. They got a good school system. So if you're looking to move here year round, this is a really nice location. You can see the forest here on the Poplar Street, 48 acres. It's very nicely wooded. Right from here, we got a spruce tree. It's probably 9-10 inches in diameter. We got one over there, 14, a hemlock behind it, about the same size. There's some larger trees in here and smaller, but one of the nice things about it is there's not a lot of underbrush, so you can walk through this. It's a pleasant walk through the woods, a lot of it, and if you don't want to get into the trees, you certainly could stay right on the main trail. But as you can see, we've got some pretty nice timber in here. These are some large poplar trees, a group of maple here in front of us. There's a really large poplar back there in the distance. You can see the crowns up there about 50 feet. This is an old trail I'm on here actually, and it's starting to grow up with some small hardwoods. If you're a deer hunter, this area is very good for deer hunting. I have friends that bow hunt the town of Old Town, and they do quite well. The soils in here, they are rocky, but you certainly could do some maintenance to this and maybe convert some of it to food plot. And you're going to see transitions of different types of land. There's not a whole lot of elevation change here, probably only 20 or 30 feet over the entire lot. So it's pretty level land, but the soils do change, and you can see a pretty distinct change right here, especially if you look at the soil map. Thank you for coming along on the tour of the 48 acres here in Poplar Street in Old Town, Maine. This cover the key features of this property. The price is $49,900. Taxes are about $180 a year. It is in tree growth. The property has about 2,500 feet of frontage on Poplar Street with electric and telephone on the roadside. If you need more information about this property, give me a call, 800-286-6164. And while you're here, don't forget, like, subscribe, and ring that bell. And that's quite important that you turn on all notifications if you're really looking for some real estate to buy, because YouTube's not going to throw that into your feed unless you ask it to. So if you put on all notifications, You'll get every video the minute it hits the air. Have a great day.